Hello guys, so with Worlds around the corner and the play-in draw and group draw being yesterday and now all teams obviously confirmed, I thought it would be a good time to talk about the best players at the tournament. Obviously, this is my opinion and based on my subjective observation of their play and in some cases of their team play or how important they are for their team. In some cases, you are being punished in rankings if you have great teammates. That might seem a bit unfair, but the one who wins all the time and looks good because all of his teammates are 10-0 as well, yeah, that's a bit easier to look good in these cases in comparison to the one who carries his team 1v9 in most of their games. That being said, um, I thought about making a top 5 for every position and then later on throwing it all together in a complete top 20, top 30 with honorable mention. So, in the top lane, I think Nagari is by far the best player there. He is really stable, he has many facets, he can play carries, he can play tank, he can play more egoistic for himself, or he can play more with Canyon the jungler. So yeah, overall he's a really great top laner. Following that I have Zoom. Yeah, like it's nearly the same for him. But overall thought Nagari's performance was a bit more stable. Then 369 from TOP. Overall, he also performed really good, but he, well, obviously had it a bit easier with Karsa and Knight in his roster, who would often snowball their leads in the top lane. And for the fourth place, I have Wander from G2. I think he's the most underrated player in G2 by far. Everyone talking about caps and perks, maybe Yankos from time to time, but it's really Wonder for me, who is often the stable one, often wins lane, is ahead in CS, and does his part for the team. Yeah, he's a rock in the top lane for G2, and even when the other team members are like throwing their coins and looking for interesting plays, Wonder is often the one who's solid and doesn't follow up on their interesting plays. Then in the fifth pick, I have Lang X or Lang Ji from LGD, I think he is. Yeah, LGD. Formerly from RNG. Um, and now on LGD he is able to express his carry self way more, and well, he showed up into the IG series from LGD 3-1 against IG. Like he made the Shy go like 2-10, I think, at some points. So yeah, obviously a really solid top laner. There are other top laners that are good at this Worlds as well, but I think top lane is not as stacked as it was in previous Worlds. But a role which is really stacked is the jungle. We have like way more than 5 really good junglers, but I'm just naming the top 5. For me, Canyon of Down One Gaming is the best, even if the other two are really close behind him. I think there's like an argument can be made for either Kanavi in second or Kasa for me in third to be on top. Like these all three are really good, and I think they're somewhat interchangeable. You can make an argument for either of them to be first, but for me, Canyon like really performed in the playoff finals in LCK, while Kanavi, well, he didn't have such a good day in the LPL finals, and that's more or less the reason JDG lost, because he's like the cornerstone of LGD's success. I feel like the lanes are good and they're mostly ahead by themselves, but he really enables the team to snowball and perform overall. He's like the glue that keeps it all together. And for Carcer, well, he plays a more supportive type of gameplay in comparison to Canyon and Kanavi, and that's certainly working for him. His team play with 369 and Knight really shines, and yeah, he does many great supportive stuff for them, like holding waves and pressure ganking for them. Yeah, doing a really good job. But I feel like because he's not playing as of a carry role in his team than Canyon and Kanavi, I I am able to put him in third in comparison to the other two. Then with a decent gap between the first, second, and third comes the fourth pick, and I have SOFM from Suning. Um, he is more like a carry jungler like the first two, but obviously not to such a great extent. Um, yeah, I think he really plays really well, and he has interesting builds with like Tankly Sin and so on. But he still is carrying the games uh, and not playing more supportive, which is like really interesting and really cool to see this completely different approach to carrying. In fifth place, I have Clit from Genji, and there's not really much to say. Everyone knows Clit from Last Worlds, really performed till he didn't, and his synergy with BDD has been immaculate this entire year. But he has his ups and downs. On days where he doesn't perform, he looks really useless and being not really there. Well, in comparison to his usual performance, obviously. So yeah, I put him in fifth. If he shows up, he's really great, and if he doesn't, well, he's still doing okay. But he is a bit of a more like daily performance dependent than the others. Then coming to another really stacked role, and I can only name 5 people right now, but you bet in the top 20 there will be more than 5 mid laners, because mid lane, as it always has been, is the most stacked role in terms of talent. So for the first mid laner at the tournament, I have Chovy. So that might come to a surprise to you if you think about who else is at the tournament. Knight and Showmaker are the other contenders for the first place, and I feel like in terms of skill, you can make the argument for either one of them. But what sold me for Chovy is not what the Liandry salesman tells me to do, but Chovy is carrying his team 1v9 in so many cases and against so high quality enemy teams like Genji, and even in the 0-3 final against Down One, he looked really good against Showmaker, and like at points was the only thing holding DRX remotely in the game. So yeah, that's the advantage I give him over the others, is because he carries 1v9. Like Pyoshik and Doran, like they're not really well. Like Pyoshik isn't even a world's level jungler. Yeah, and Deft, well, there are many issues with him, like he has back pain and so on, and the meta is not really suited for carry AD carries at the moment. Um, so yeah, like he has to do everything by himself, and he really excels at it. Uh, Gaining Dragon X, the second seed for Korea, is mostly all on him. So yeah, I give him the edge over Knight and Showmaker. And speaking of Knight, I have him in second, because on a similar level, he does what Chovy does, but well, he has way better teammates, like way better. Like Jackie Love is finding a way to carry from the bot lane with the current meta, being more focused on support AD carries. And well, he has Carcer and 369. So yeah, like Knight has way better teammates than Chovy, but he's also the main carry on this team for like most of the games. This is one of the main reasons I give him the edge over Showmaker. Showmaker, well, he's also a really talented mid laner. no question asked. Like there, you could easily put them in first as well. There's like no difference between these three, and it's the same as in the jungle, right? The top three junglers and the top three mid laners, like they're interchangeable. But well, Knight has better teammates maybe than Showmaker as well, but Showmaker is not always the one carrying the team. Like Ghost has like his one game in 10 where he carries. Canyon and Nagari are really popping off in the most games, and then like down one comes through team fighting or like snowballing, and it's not really a one man carry show, uh, unlike the others. That's why I have Showmaker in third in comparison to the other two. But as I said, from their like 1v1 skills, like you could just change them all up. Like it doesn't matter for me. I think they're all like equally good if they perform. Um, then with a like a huge gap after the third place comes fourth, and I have BDD there. BDD is at the moment the second carry of Genji after Ruler, but in the games where Ruler isn't allowed to pop off because the game doesn't go that long, BDD is usually the one holding the win in his hands. Yes, he has help from Clit most of the time, and even Life is roaming from time to time, but he's still finding really sick outplays. Like we saw in the T1 series, like his team fights were really good, and even against DRX in this 3-2 loss for them, he really performed and wasn't getting styled on by Chovy most of the time. Also, in comparison to the fifth mid laner I have on my list, he's way more consistent and stable. So he will not lose you the game. He will always be relevant in the late game. And yeah, Azir is getting nerfed a bit, so that's not good for BDD as he's like one of the best, if not the best Azir player in the world at the moment. So yeah, that's a bit of a hindrance for him. But anyway, I think like Genji can rest assured that BDD will have their back and support Ruler in carrying. So fifth, I thought a lot about who I put in fifth. I was thinking about Bjergsen or Caps. Bjergsen carrying more 1v5, 1v9, but on a lesser degree than, or like Bjergsen's heights are lesser than Caps' heights, but Caps obviously is like a coin flip player, so like 70% of the game he wins it for you, and like in 30% of the games like he runs it down. Like it's not actually these numbers, but sometimes it feels like it. Like he wins with it, and he has like other really great teammates in comparison to Bjergsen, but just because of Cap's heights being like way higher than Bjergsen's, I put him in fifth. And yeah, also Yagao from JDG is also a really solid player, and I thought about putting him here because he's also really consistent, but then again, like I felt like JDG success was coming more through Kanavi, and Yagao was more enabled through him instead of enabling Kanavi instead. So like he's not uh, the source of their success. He's just a part of it, if you understand what I'm going for. So yeah, that's why I picked Caps over these other two. So then the AD carry position. This will also be very interesting if you're looking at Group C, where we have like really stacked AD carries matching up against each other. Same goes for, what was it, Group D. So in first, obviously I have Ruler. Like Ruler is probably the best AD carry at the world at the moment, and yeah, like he's really popping off. Like world champion 2017, carrying Genji to that title, mostly by himself, and with Malzah's assistant, obviously. But yeah, has decorated history, always consistent, always pops off, and is always the backbone of Genji's team fighting. Um, Nothing much to be said. Like, he has great numbers, like damage and CS difference. Yeah, like also the meta, like his Senna is really great. His Ashe is even better, and yeah, when he gets Caitlyn, yeah, then bot diff will be enabled. So yeah, but close to him, playing with a bit of a different playstyle, I feel like, is Jackie Love from TOP. Um, Jackie Love has a really great showing this year. Like, he left IG for a complicated reason, let's say. Um, and then IG like fell into a trump, showing that Jackie Love was a really vital part of their team. And while it's always about the shy and rookie, the truth was that Jackie Love was holding the team's back most of the time with solid and great bot lane performances. That was only noticed after he left the team, and I don't know, Puff I think is the current AD carry. Yeah, like, nothing against him, but like, his performance was not on the level of Jackie Love by far. Then Jackie Love later joined TOP and then turned TOP into a complete powerhouse. They already had 369, Karsa and Knight, and now with Jackie Love and Yujanja in bot lane, the team was completely well-rounded and a really strong super team, winning early, mid-game and late-game team fights quite handedly because just of their prowess and team fighting and team synergy as well. Their individual talents are really stacked. But this is not only about TOP, it is about Jackie Love. Jackie Love rounds up the team and performs well in the bot lane, getting early leads and carrying from the AD carry position at this moment in the mid game, while the AD carry position is not really set out to carry, more, well, carry through support, right? But he has amazing damage numbers. His KDAs are also really good. Overall, he's a really aggressive and really mechanically strong AD carry. The matchup against the third AD carry on this list, Deft, in Group D, will be really interesting. Jackie Love and Deft, that will be a really great matchup. But for Deft, let's hope he gets well, because Deft has some back issues and is currently standing in solo queue ranked games, or while he's not playing, he's always standing. Like in Champion Select, he's standing. Let's hope he gets better till Worlds, and then he can show up his huge skills against Jackie Loft and TOP. Other than that, like, I think we don't have to talk much about Deft. He's probably an all-time, like, second or third all-time AD carry. Has huge performances, can pop off really greatly and carry team fights in the late game. Also stable 2v2 bot lane performances. Nothing much to say there. In fourth, I have Loken of JDG. He's one of the more reserved players of the roster, but when it comes to it in team fights, he has their back. Like, his team fighting and team play is really great. Overall, a really solid AD carry, also racking up good numbers. Yeah. Overall, yeah, solid is a great word, and I think the team can depend on him in late game fights in many cases. In fifth, I have another really solid AD carry, Reckless, like, more or less the backbone of Fnatic at the moment, not the one carrying them, because, well, AD carry meta is not really set out at the moment, and only the really best in the world at the moment can carry from AD carry. In the early and mid game, right? Not in the late game. Late game AD carry is still really good, but mid and early game, like an Ashe and a Senna, doesn't do much damage. But Reckless is always solid, like, wins 2v2 even against G2 spot lane. Overall, like, a really solid year from him. Never like underperforming, never like inting games. Yeah, he's never the reason you will lose the game, and in many cases, if it goes to late game, he will win you the game. There's a funny statistic uh, for like G2 versus Fnatic matches. If the game is ended under 20 minutes, G2 wins most of the time because then Reckless isn't enabled, right? The AD carry is not strong in 20 minutes. But if games go for longer than 20 minutes or like around 30 minutes, Fnatic's win rate is like twice as much against G2. Because then Reckless is enabled to show AD carry diff in these games. But yeah, for the 1v1 like G2 Fnatic AD carry diff, it doesn't matter because there's diff in every other lane. Anyway, Reckless is someone who has also historically showed up at Worlds, not really getting smashed by other lanes, holding his own against Deft and Uzi in past Worlds, not winning these matchups, right? Well, I think he won one bot lane against Deft back then against EDG, but yeah, he will not get stomped too hard. He won't die needlessly. Yeah, solid is what defines Reckless playstyle. Going for this support position now. I have in first Beryl from Down One Gaming. Like he really pops off and has a definitive playstyle of heavy roaming, leaving Ghost on an island. But Ghost, well, he plays safe. He's a solid role player in AD carry position. The meta really suits him. Anyway, Beryl then roams, ganks mid lane, enables the Canyon for dives in mid, or maybe for invades. Beryl overall also really solid mechanical player. Last year he was mostly known for his Alistar. This year he also is good at Bard. Well, obviously is still Alistar. Yeah, we can expect much from him, and obviously Down One Gaming as a whole, a really strong team. In second I have Lil Mao from, wait, what was it? JDG, wasn't it? I have bad memory, damn. I'm not sure anymore at what team he plays. It's not that great, but his playstyle is similar to Beryl, also very roam heavy and enabling the rest of his teammates. Showing up in the top lane and the enemy jungle really early in the game and pushing his team ahead. Obviously, that's really good. And then his mechanical prowess in the 2v2 also really strong, enabling for 2v2 kills in many cases. Another really strong mechanical support player is Carrier from Dragon X. Sadly though, his like last few weeks or last few games weren't that great. But if you look back at spring and the beginnings of summer, you would say that he's probably one of the greatest supports in the world by far, even better than Beryl and Lil Mao. But as of now, he's like in a bit of a slump. If he is able to get out of that and show his early year performance at Worlds, yeah, we will all be left stunted because like he's so mechanically gifted and he does so many great plays. Especially like his plays with Bard this year were really strong. Like what else? Pike and Leona. Overall, like he's so mechanically gifted, and him working with Deft will be really interesting against Jackie Love Yuyanja. Talking about Yuyanja, I have him in fourth. I feel like he is not as much of a standout player, but his 2v2 is really strong. He enables Jackie Love to carry, peels nicely for him in teamfights or engages if need be. Overall, a really solid support player, and like not really having an int playstyle. And his mechanics are still very great. Not as great as carriers, obviously, but he is someone that Jackie Love can rely upon if he sets out to carry. And I think that's mostly what the standard support is supposed to do. Similar story for life. He does similar things than Yuranja for damn it, Ruler. So yeah, I think really great. There are obviously other supports who are really awesome at Worlds as well, but I also factor in recency and success. So maybe some support players who went in as a third seed, yeah, I have to take a few points from them. Similar story in jungle. There's a really great fourth seed jungler, but being fourth seed, yeah, I have to deduce a few points because you obviously lost in playoffs quite early, and then fourth seed means in China, for example, that you didn't excel in the regionals as well. Yeah. So then coming to the top 20, I'm not going into much detail why a player is over another, because in many cases I already talked about that in the individual lane uh, ranking. So I'm just going down the list and maybe saying something here and there. So obviously I start first. So the best player at Worlds is Chovy, followed by Knight and Showmaker. I think these three mid laners are really awesome, and as I said before, they are around the same level, so I have to put them next to each other. Followed by the next three great players, Kenyon, Kanavi, and Karsa. As I have them in the same order in the role rankings, I will keep that in mind for this ranking. So someone who was ranked third uh, in his position will not be lower than the one who was ranked fourth in his position. Obviously, that wouldn't make really much sense, now would it? So yeah, I keep the ranking Canyon before Kanabi before Casa. Then in 7th, I have Ruler, followed by Jackie Love. Talked about that. In ninth, I have Nuggery, followed by SOFM in 10th. Then out of the top 10, we have BDD S11 and Caps in 12th position. In third, we have Beryl, followed by the injured Deft in 14th. Livemau in 15th, and then coming back to another great top laner, Zoom in 16th. I feel like Zoom could be a bit higher on this list, but players like Beryl and Caps and even SOFM are so vital for their team, while Zoom, like, he's really strong, but he's not the most vital part of his team. As such, I have to put him a bit down because, yeah, he's not the most important player in his team, and he is mostly enabled and is not the enabler himself. Yeah, that it hurts for him that Kanavi is just so really damn good. Another enabler is Bjergsen. I would partially compare him to Chovy in a sense, because Bjergsen is also a 1v9 player. Yeah, Doublelift isn't having a great time. Biofrost has questionable positioning at times. Broken Blade, his playoff performance wasn't that good. I mean, he got a top lane sit in the finals and always got the counter pick against Solo, and well, Solo is more of a team player instead of an individual laning player. Like, that's where he excels, and so yeah, Broken Blade like was winning in the finals, but in team fights he like really had interesting plays, like flashing into 5 people and so on. So yeah, Bjergsen is the one carrying the ship of TSM and solely put them into first place with great performances and, well, lack of counter and punish from the enemies. Yeah, NA is a bit of strange region. In 18th, I have Loken, followed by Reckless in 19th. They're really solid, not really explosive carries, but backbone of their team. where they can rely upon these AD carries to carry and to perform. In 20, I have a really strange pick. It's Peanut from LGD. So yeah, LGD is 4th seed, and I have deduced many points from Peanut for that. But Peanut's carry performances and enabling of his teammates, like Sheer, it's really great. And especially in the IG series, Peanut showed jungle diff and what he can do with Elite. Yeah, we shouldn't forget Peanut just because he wasn't in the limelight in the last 1.5 years. He's still an MSI champion under SKT, and in the Rocks and Coup Tigers, he he was probably the second best team in in these years. Yeah, we shouldn't forget how damn good Peanut is just because he wasn't playing for like winning teams in the last time. Then top 20 is finished. I have like a few honorable mentions because this year we have many great players. Sadly, many great players are being left out of the tournament. I think I might do a video on the greatest players like missing worlds this year because there are also a damn ton of them. I mean, we have 22 teams, and at Worlds, every team has like about 5 players. So yeah, we have a lot of great players, but also yeah, there are some regions like Korea and China, and a bit even NA, but let's leave that aside for now, who have really strong teams in lower positions in their standings who won't make it to Worlds, or like players who play on really bad teams but are still really strong. Just naming Someday for 100 Thieves. The team overall is not really doing that well, but Someday is like probably one of the best, if not, yeah, probably one of the best, if not the best player in NA. Like I think he has like rank 1 and rank 2 last time I checked. And solo queue, yeah, it's NA solo queue, but that's still a great feat. Yeah, so a video on these honorable players who are missing out on Worlds will follow maybe in a few days. Let's see. I have other ideas in mind. But coming back to the top 30 extension of this list, in 21st I have Wonder, followed by his teammate Jankos. So G2, while they were smashing Fnatic in the finals, I'm not going to give much credit for that because of different reasons. So Fnatic was playing really poorly, and G2 punished that really well, and it felt more like Fnatic was going in and G2 was punishing. That doesn't take away of G2's skill, but I'm not going to go on my knees for them because of this 3-0 win against Fnatic. I have the 3-2 game against Fnatic and Rogue in mind, where they were a bit struggling, and players like Perks were really not performing. But Jankos and Wonder, the really stable parts of the team, I think it wasn't enough for the top 20, but 21 and 22nd are the places for them. 23rd and 24th, I have the supports Carrier and Yuyanja. Like one of them is not really the main carrier in his team, and the other one is in a bit of a slump. So yeah, it's just short of the top 20. 20 and 25, I have Ghost. He's not the carrier of Jam 1, but he in his game against Dragon X in the finals, he suddenly popped off. Was like smashing Deft around, carrying from AD carry position, getting bot lane leads. Something that was never seen before in this year. But he was really performing well, and even before the series, he was a really good AD carry. He was really decent, never falling far behind, like holding bot lane tightly shut for the enemy team to not push through there. Like overall, also good team fighting. Yeah, he's not the main carry of Down 1, and he has really great teammates. So it's not top 20 obviously, but he has to be mentioned uh, as a really great player. Then Sheer from LGD. He and Peanut are what feels like the backbone and the carries of the team. Most of their leads come through the mid jungle 2v2 or like them roaming around. Yeah, as he is like 4th seed team, and well, even in the match against IG, Sheer wasn't really smashing Rookie most of the time, and against Knight and Yagao, he was also not really that great in the regular split, so I have to put him down a lot. But yeah, don't sleep on him. He's a really talented player, just like Peanut. Just because we haven't heard of him for the last year and a half, like 2 years maybe, doesn't mean like his talent is all gone. Um, and yeah, it will be really interesting to see LGD in play-ins smashing every other game, every other region there. Will be interesting. In 28th, I have the main carry of Rogue. This might come to an surprise for many, but Inspired is really clever in his jungle pathing and his item builds, and also what lane to prioritize. Mechanically, he's not that great in comparison to even the 29th and 30th pick on this list, or any other, but he's really clever about it, and showed against G2, for example, that even without great micro skill, you can achieve leads consistently. So yeah, like he's the best player of Rogue in my opinion. Larson is a bit iffy, and he's way like not better than Caps by far. And even Nemesis on a good day can go toe to toe with Larson, and he's like uh, a bit more coin flippy, but his heights aren't even as high as Caps. So yeah, I'm not mentioning Larson in this list, but Inspired is the carry of Rogue, and yeah, the 3-2 series against G2 was really impressive. They nearly had that. In 29th and 30, I have Live and Mickey X. They do similar things. Mickey X isn't as global with his play as he was last year, and the 2v2 is also not going that great. But his roams with with Yankos and his teamfight peel for perks are still really solid, and is what keeps G2 in late game fights in many cases. Live, well, I already talked about him in the position rankings, but yeah, he's the man for Ruler to have his back and give him the kills, help him do carrying. Yeah. He talked much about supports, and I shortly want to mention Core JJ. Like he's obviously TL's best player, and yeah, he wasn't. He's also NA's MVP. Um, but in the playoffs, I wasn't that amazed by his play. But if he can go back to regular split performance or like last year's performance, he can easily make it into top 30, pushing Mickey X out of the rankings. But we haven't seen that of Core JJ as of late, so yeah, I have left him out. There are obviously other really talented players as this world. Like I said, we have 22 teams with or like 20 teams without Vietnam. Not sure. A bit of a memory loss here again. With 5 players, around 5 players, like some have substitutes even. So yeah, we have really many great players. So a top 20, even a top 30 extension, um, will not have all of the good players in it. And remember, the ranking is based on my like personal opinion and based off what I have seen of the teams. I have not like like for example, like I haven't seen every game of Suning this year. I've seen a few, but not every. I've seen the latest, but not all of them. Um, So yeah, take it with a bit of a grain of salt. It's my personal opinion. I tried to explain it as best as I could, but yeah, try to understand that. Yeah, it's probably not what you had in mind, but maybe you can post yours in the comments, or like your take on my list. So anyway, I wish you all a great day, and yeah, see you around.